Why does this feel more nervous than normal?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot going on. Hey guys, welcome back to Still Single. I'm your host, Rob Moore, joined as always by Jordan Kahana. And it's just going to be the two of us today. So Alex is flying back from a speaking event, and he couldn't make it. But we were like, we got to bring Still Single to the world and get an episode out today. Also, we usually record on Zoom, but today we're trying Riverside. So I think we're both just a little. How's your energy, Jay? You feel good?
I feel great. Like my dogs let me sleep in this morning. I woke up and rolled over and cool. It's probably a normal 7:38, and it was 10:15, and I was like, what just happened? But okay,
dude, I slept in so late yesterday. It was amazing. And then I popped up at 9 to just make a phone call, and then I went back to sleep, and it was 11:30 when I woke up, and I was like, what is this, college? It's amazing.
It's great, yeah, but feeling good. It's been really nice weather here in Denver recently. It's a little chilly through the weekend, but should clear up now that the weather is getting nicer, and just being outside a bit more has been really helpful for my mental state. Seasonal depression is legit.
So real, dude. It's so real.
So yeah, I mean, you guys had a ton of rain in LA for a while.
It's funny because first of all, I have my sad lamp on, my little daylight lamp,
nice.
And I just keep it on. And sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, I'm fucked up right now. I am high. But yeah, the last few days in LA have just been gorgeous. And it's funny, I don't want to ever complain about weather in LA, but yes, it was super rainy, and it was a true winter vibe. And yesterday this morning I was walking around, I'm like, I live in the most beautiful place. It is just gorgeous. So very, very grateful for that, practicing my gratitude muscle.
I remember having that feeling when I was living in LA a few times when I was like, it's beautiful out. And I'm like, I live in LA. When my friends ask oh, what's Jordan up to? It's he's in LA. It just felt so right in that moment of, it's just yeah, I love this. My life location is amazing. And that's what kept me there for so I lived in such a tiny apartment, but you could see the ocean from my front patio, and it was walking distance to the beach. I was a block off the ocean. But I lived in a shoebox.
Wait, was that the place that we partied at for Halloween? That wasn't a shoebox.
Yeah, but you guys didn't see my place.
Oh, that wasn't your place? That was your ex's place. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, no,
I was that place was kind of big. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a decent sized spot.
Oh man, the ex's place always brings up memories.
Yes, the Halloween story that we can tell one more time. For the audience.
Oh my God, never drinking again. Dude, I'm heading to Stagecoach next weekend.
Nice.
Country Music Festival. I'm very excited. I went to therapy yesterday, and my therapist was like, so you're going, there's going to be a lot of drugs there. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, there's going to be a lot of drinking. He's like, what if a girl walks up to you and she's like, here, take this bump of cocaine? And I'm like, Doc, take it easy. You're not coming. You're not coming on the trip. And he's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, honestly, I'm going to be fine. There's nothing. I really don't feel this urge to party and do drugs or drink. And, for our audience, I am sober, but I am excited to dance all fucking day and night. I am excited to party per se and be out in the world and party, but it's not in a substance way.
But there is a big difference. So back in 2012, I went to Coachella as an attendee, and then worked Stagecoach, which was 2 weeks later.
Worked Stagecoach.
Yeah, I was doing social for them at the time. And
you weren't at one of the stands giving food. You were
no. I was managing their digital media for Golden Voice, and so this was also before Coachella did 2 weekends. So there was that week gap that took place,
right.
And there is a big shift of energy that happens from Coachella to Stagecoach. People bring lawn chairs and set up and chill at a state, and they're just cracking beers all day. And it's very, the the vibes are very, very different. And I think that like kind of plays into the music and the artists that are at Coachella versus Stagecoach. Is just a country music festival is pretty much more of just like eating good food and drinking beer.
Yeah. Which I'm very excited about because I've done Coachella 8 times, 7 times. And like one year, Noelle and I actually went both weekends and we were like, this is too much Coachella. And I went last year. I actually went with a girl on like our 3rd date and then I took her to Coachella and we car camped.
And you guys were car camping.
Yeah, we car camped and I was like, well, this is a sink or swim opportunity here. And in all fairness, she did a great job. Like she was lovely. I think I was just like still super fresh out of my last relationship and I just wasn't ready. But I left Coachella being like, I just don't need to come back to Coachella for a bit. And so I'm very excited for a different energy, but still on the same, Coachella grounds.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think like concerts in general, especially festivals, who you go with matters
so
like
much.
That vibe and that energy. Like thinking back, we've talked about this on the show before of just the different shows that I've seen at the Red Rocks. And then I went to that Rufus show with like weird energy and I have just bad memories from that Rufus show. And it got better once I left them and met up with my other friend who was like 3 rows out and all that kind of stuff. And
it's like doing mushrooms. You like need the right crew to do mushrooms.
Yeah.
Is
right
like
atmosphere.
The right atmosphere, right fam. Oh yeah, I'm excited. So I'm going with my NYU roommate Jared, and then there's like a big group of like West Side friends that are going as well. So I'm excited. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I might go like buy some costumes, not costumes, outfits, but they'll be like sort of costumes.
Costumes for you, but normal attire for regular country music fans.
Exactly. So yeah, man, you texted me last night. So we got word late last night that Alex couldn't make the recording. And then I got a question, a text from Jordan being like, so what are we doing, Poppy? And I was like, let's hit record. But I know you had a couple things that you wanted to bring up today. And, I am just on suspense right here. I have no idea what you want to talk about, but I am ready to rock.
Nice. Well, depending on if Alex listens to this or not, I've wanted to bring up Little Dicky, the rapper, and his show Dave. And I know Alex does not like Dave. Dave
he
Bird.
Does not like Dave. No.
And so because we're without Alex and because season 3 of his show came out and I think his show is absolutely brilliant. Do you watch Dave?
I watched season 1. I did not watch season 2, but I'm a fan of the show. I'm a fan of the world. I love everybody that works on it, everybody that's in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
So, so season 3 came out and I've been watching and there's an episode in season 2 that I think is so brilliant where he is on Raya and he matches with Doja Cat.
Yes.
And
it's a great
they're
episode.
Flirting the whole time. Like, actually, I have a crush on Doja Cat because of this episode. Like, just there's something about her that I was like, oh, she is super cute and like there's
super fun,
endearingness.
Sexy,
flirty, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so they're going back and forth, and what ends up happening is like she's on she's working, and so they had like set up a date, and he like freaks out of being like, I can't believe you're not responding to me. What the hell? Like this and that. And she like comes in, she's like about to meet up with him on the date, and was like, yeah, we're good. Like whatever just happened, like that's too much for me. And so he then like falls back to his like plan B option of a date, and then she cancels on a date that she was already about to go on, and like to go on a date with him because he's a famous rapper versus just like some normal dude. And it just like kind of talked about dating apps in that culture where you're always looking for your next best option. And even if you have a date plan, like if someone who has higher status is like, hey, actually I am free, you're like, sorry dude, I gotta go see about this.
Totally.
And so this whole season, so there are 4 episodes in, he's on his tour, which is called like Looking for Love Tour. And he's talking a lot about how he's not about the hookup culture and how like, yes, he is famous and he has those opportunities and and he's trying to find someone with a little more sincerity out of it. And so much so, like, the most recent episode I just watched last night, which was really interesting, was that he connected with this photographer for this magazine, and they're hanging out, and he's like, I think I'm in love with this girl. And they're hanging out, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm leaving. And she's like, I wish you didn't have to leave. And he's like, yeah, but you have all the guys coming after you once I leave. Like, don't worry. And she kind of was like put off about it and was like, all right, it's time for you to go. And he was telling his ex, who they're really good friends with, and she goes, you have to give people space to have excuses or like not be perfect. And that's something that we focus on so much in early on in dating, of just like the perfection of everyone. And that the second they do something that we don't like, we're like, that's it, I'm out. Like they're in the imperfections. And so that was one thing that I wanted to talk about, because there's so much content about the ick and red flags and all this, like, how much should a guy make? How tall should a guy be? How tall should a girl be? Like, all these factors. And you've talked about it a lot, of just like, we're removing the pheromones and just the like lizard brain element of meeting people in person, where it's like, damn, her eyes sparkle, like she has a cute smile, like all these things that you're not like, well, on a stat sheet, she's not 5'5" and brunette, like whatever the things that you have.
Dude, this resonates so much with me, because I'm like, my red flag, and I've shared this, is like, I go fast and furious. I get very enamored with somebody, and then something happens where there's an imperfection, and I'm like, I mean, dude, I like broke up with somebody because she didn't know how to use chopsticks. Like, I was like, I can't unsee this. And granted, maybe, I'm not going to fault myself too much, but I understand this desire for perfection, especially in dating, and especially in those first 3 to 5 dates, where you're going, could this be somebody that I like want to really date and invest in and like be boyfriend and girlfriend with? And immediately. And I think for guys, especially in this hookup culture lifestyle that we live in, and dating apps where it's like, oh, I could always be swiping or matching with somebody hotter or whatever. It is like, I've been practicing more of just be present and stop seeking as much, which is hard.
Yeah. And I guess the more that I've dated, and I guess the more that I've seen relationships and other people's relationships, and we've talked this like in the past about, are there people's relationships that you are envious of, and also are like, I definitely don't want that. And the thought of like knowing immediately within the first 5 seconds, I think is a fallacy. Like, relationships are so hard. I think I'd be interested to hear a little bit more of like with you and Noelle, of just like the hardships of maybe leading up to engagement or while you were married, and decisions that you'd have to make. I know that you moved to Chicago for a little bit, which I'd be curious to hear that discussion point that you and Noelle had around that, and like then moving back to California, and then even the discussion around like having like these are big life decisions that you have to like bring someone involved with and make sure that you're on the same page.
And I will say that like in the because before Noelle, I was there was never a dating app. I never like met somebody via dating app. It was always through a mutual friend, and you're meeting physically. Now, most of the women that I've dated, I've met through a dating app. So it is that different connection. But I'm almost like I'm learning how to enjoy it and embrace it differently. And something only recently have I accepted is that like that 23-year-old moment where I locked eyes with Noelle and went, oh my God, I'm going to marry this girl. She just, she swept me off my feet. Like, I'm going to have a future partner and somebody that I'm dedicated to and build a life with. And the falling in love moment, the meet cute, however, it's going to be different than it was with Noelle. Like, inherently, it's going to feel different and it's going to seem different. So, to answer your question about like tough conversations, I mean, Noelle was in my orbit for 5 months before we started dating, like we were just mutual friends, but she had a boyfriend. So I was always hands off because I didn't want to like be that guy who was like pursuing somebody who had a boyfriend. And I think she looked at me as somebody who's kind of annoying. She was like, Rob's annoying and just like kind of class clown energy and like whatever. And like a little shit kind of vibe. And I always thought of her as like, she's kind of a bitch. Like she's so hot, but she's like kind of cold to me every time I see her. And it wasn't until she broke up with her boyfriend and she's like, Rob, I broke up with my boyfriend 2 weeks ago. Do you have any single guy friends that you can set me up with? That like we saw each other for the first time. And I remember in that moment locking eyes with her and being like, whoa, like this is real. And granted, you know, I've had a couple of those moments in my dating after Noel passed. Actually, really, I can only think of maybe one. And I think that initial, oh my God, feeling allows you to picture yourself with this person longer than just the night or longer than just this moment. And then in terms of like, yeah, having kids, building a life together, I mean, those are conversations that you naturally have. I mean, we were 23, so we weren't really talking about it so quickly. It was just about partying together and having fun, traveling, you know. But yeah, I mean, very, very early on, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, this is the real thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Alex and I have joked in the past, like, this was like a saying that we'd go back and forth is like, as you're swiping through different people and there's someone, you know, that we almost say like was made for you in a lab, or just like visually they hit your aesthetics in a way that you're like, I would shut down every app. I would delete social media to like date this person, but you don't know anything else. Like you're just attracted to what they, you know, their looks, but being in a relationship is difficult because you have to grow as a person together a little bit, and you have to be fundamentally in that same space. And no one is perfect. Everyone has imperfections, and it's how much of that imperfections are you willing to look past? And this is like an early episode thing that I brought up of like it was like 68%, and we jokingly said like move it up to 69%, you know, of like, can you look, it was, it was Dave. Anyways, he was just talking about how you accept their imperfections and that the one ends up being like 80% that person, and like the 20% of like, and you have to realize that you're not 100% perfect and have your imperfections, and people need to love you for that and look past that. And how there's also that saying of like, your crazy matches my crazy, like, everyone's a little crazy too, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just like remembering those elements and being patient with the process a little bit. Granted,
but it's hard because you have so many options because of the dating app culture. So like I was talking with my life coach this week, and she's like, you know, I work with this other client and he deleted all the dating apps because he like read some article that like guys are just not committing now because there's this notion that there's so many options and there's so many, you know, different women. And I will say, back to the imperfection point, it's like you do learn to love their imperfections. I feel like you almost like fall in love with the imperfections. And like Noelle was kind of OCD, and it would drive me crazy. Like sometimes it would just be like, I'm like, do I really have to fold this towel this fucking way? But then I'd find myself laughing and thinking it was so adorable that like, that's how she wanted the towel folded. Like you almost like love it. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but, yeah, I know about that feeling of like, oh man, you're dating someone and you're like, oh, she took an ugly selfie or she posted something kind of cringe. And then your judgment comes out and then you go, oh, there could be something more perfect out there. When in reality, there isn't anything perfect. Nothing is perfect.
Right. And I think that goes back into just like the choice paralysis a little bit, or just the immediate gratification of a society that we live in, especially in America, is like, you know, I remember the days where Amazon Prime was like 2 days, like, or less. And now sometimes it's like 4 days. And I'm like, what am I paying for? Like, what is this bullshit that I have to...
What is 4 days? I need this screwdriver now.
Yeah, what? You know, things like that of just this immediate gratification. And I think you have to remind yourself too, is the connection that you are building with this person is not, you know, like realizing that a little bit, and not just, oh wow, that girl's pretty too, that guy's pretty, you know, like, wow, he's endless. So you know, all those kind of things, is just reminding yourself that there's always going to be someone better looking, someone younger, someone more like whatever, but are you aligned in the way to, you know, like building a foundation in a relationship with someone and going through those hardships and growing is really the value. And if you're, you know, so much of what I'm also realizing too, and I realized this even before I got into a relationship, is just like, it feels as though dating apps now are just for content. Like, they're not actually intentionally to meet anyone meaningful. It's all, this guy said this girl said this, screenshot it, do a little like green screen TikTok, but like, can you believe that? Or, you know, or like leaving this date, the guy didn't know how to use chopsticks. Yuck. Like, or the girl that like, that went viral like a month or two ago, that like did this whole thing that he asked if like cheese was extra, and it was like an extra $3.50, so he said no, I'm good. And so she like got up to the bathroom and paid for the whole meal, left him there, and was like, hey, I paid for dinner, you should have gotten the cheese, and then deleted all of his information. And everyone's like, $3.50 for cheese is kind of bullshit to begin with.
$3.50 is a lot for cheese.
Yeah, for like a cheat, you know, whatever it was. And, you know, and even seeing people like, I saw a video too recently where this girl was going through this big thing, and she was like, he completely ghosted me. I got him a ticket to this event and we stopped talking, and like, ew, he's like maybe a 5, or like now he's like a 2. And I was like watching as she was getting ready, and I'm like, you're not like, you need to realize where you're at also either of where we're doing this. And like, everyone has different attraction levels and different things like that, but it really feels the way that like social media is shifting a bit, especially in this culture, is truly dating apps is for content more than for connection.
I mean, I have run into a couple people who's like, they're like newly married, and I'm like, how'd you guys meet? And they're like, Bumble. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, congratulations.
How? Like,
how?
What?
Like, how did you meet on Bumble? And it was like, oh my God, this is the one. But it does happen, and like, seriously, snaps to those that do find connection on apps. And I myself, like, I've found connection on apps. Like, it is that, but I think there is a mental shift, and I can only really speak from my own experience, where like there's that feeling of, I'm using this to like hook up and to basically just like have experiences and meet women and kind of like satisfy that urge, right? Where it's like, you know, a dating app is like one big bar, right? Like, it's just like you're going out to the bar and you're shooting your shot and you're seeing who's attracted to you, and, you know, let's see if there's a vibe. And then there's another way to look at it, which I looked at it for a very long time when I first, you know, became single again after Noel passed, which was like, I'm going to find my wife through this, and I'm going to find my next partner in crime, which is a totally different, I don't know, like it's obviously a different frame. And I found myself getting so much more let down when I framed it that way, versus like, no, I'm just really looking for like experiences, and like, if there is connection, I'm going to pursue it. And so it's funny. You mentioned earlier about seeing some couples that you're like, oh my God, I want to be that couple. And seeing other couples, you're like, I do not want to be this couple. Anyways, I was out Saturday night, had a boys' night. We went to this bar. We ran in, we had a great dinner. Like, it was just like a great boys' night. Needed it. And then we ran into our buddy Madison, who's a photographer in LA, and he's just a talented guy. And his wife was there, and she was so nice, and she was gorgeous. And I was just like, fuck yeah, Madison. I was like, I I knew him, but I didn't.
Didn't know Madison can go is gender neutral. Didn't really.
Oh yeah, Madison's a dude.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, fuck yeah, like Madison's killing it. His like wife's like super cool and super hot and like fuck yeah. And then even more so than, I just saw their love for each other and like the way that they talked, and it was just they love each other. It was real love, and I got in my feels. I'm not kidding. Like just watching them together, because it was just like, here's a guy who's just enamored with his wife, and just like he feels like the luckiest guy in the world. I can just tell, and she's like in love with him, and they're married and they're doing it, and they're still out and having fun and like adventuring. And I was just like, damn, like that really is the goal. It really is. Another thing I wanted to mention too, just while we're on this like imperfection thing, is like something that I've been working on is really gut checking myself when I go on dates, of just like, how does my like gut feel? Like, can I just sit with this person and like, I'm not anxious? Like how's my energy right now? Like, is the vibe just calm? Because if it is, like, that's something you shouldn't ignore when you're going on these dates. Like, how does somebody actually make your system feel?
Yeah, intuition is everything with it. And going back to like the social media stuff too, it made me think of a conversation that I had recently, and I saw someone make this comment, and I agree with it so much, is that the longer the caption on the post, the worse the relationship is doing. Like when Khloe Kardashian makes a post with like Tristan Thompson, who's like cheated on her publicly like multiple times, it's like 7 paragraphs long,
right,
like through the ups and downs and all this stuff. And one of my biggest inspirations is Casey Neistat, and I was having this conversation recently, and he's very public about his relationship with his wife, and he's made a lot of like videos with her and about her, and they've had a podcast that was called Couples Therapy for a while. So like they just seem once again, a public facing relation, like not that they do a lot of content of just like couples content, but
right.
He's public about his relationship and all that, and the confidence around it. And I was having this conversation, and he made this post where it's like him and his wife, and all it said was NYC type shit. And I was like, see, they're good.
They're killing it. Like they're so happy.
Like
they had some NYC sex. They had some NYC adventures.
Like whatever it is, he didn't need to be like, this girl's been with me for 12 years when I was in my lowest of lows and all that kind of stuff. And so, sharing going back to the content element of people dating and all that kind of stuff, like I do think that there is like being good behind the scenes is so much more important than like, hey, our relationship gets 5,000 likes a post.
Oh, 100%.
And like, I usually get 1,200 likes, or whatever, or like 500 likes a post, and it blows up and all that kind of stuff. And so making sure that you're good offline versus online is
everything.
So important.
I mean, granted, Noelle and I, we cheesed a lot on Instagram, and it's funny. I actually looked at her Instagram this morning with Leia, with my daughter, because I was just like, Leia goes, "Did mom have pierced ears?" And I was like, yeah, she had her ears pierced because Leia's turning 6 and she's like thinking about getting her ears pierced. And I'm like, yeah, whenever you're ready. She's like, okay, when I'm 7. And then she's like, how many piercings did mom have? And I was, I pulled up her Instagram and we kind of looked through it together. And a lot of there was a lot of beautiful posts about me and about Leia. And it's heartbreaking, but it's also, it just reminds me of that effortless sharing of your relationship. It's just effortless. You're not really, you're just sharing because you're so fucking happy with that person. And I can also, there was one photo that came up where we're literally sitting in the car side by side, Noelle and I, holding up the ultrasound picture of Leia. And we have these great smiles on and we look so fucking happy. And I remember that day, and literally moments before we took that photo, we got into a fight. And we got into a fight over, I was probably just being like an asshole and like really just like anxious about work and just like really like letting it out. And our fights were never name calling or really bad. They weren't malicious like that. But, they'd get heated and I would always get stressed. And then it's like, oh, we got to take this picture and like post it. And it's just, dude, nothing matters but what happens behind closed doors. Honestly, like the Instagram of it all. First of all, you can delete Instagram posts, so they don't fucking matter that much. Like I've deleted a whole relationship off my Instagram that I had that, you know, at the time served me and was lovely. And there were some good times, but ultimately it didn't work. And then I was like, well, I'm taking this out of my off my show reel. Because I don't want it.
Yeah, that was the thing with past relationships with me, is that because I view Instagram so much more as like a business, and like the brand that I built is me and my dogs, and just kind of focusing on that, like that has definitely created tension in the past. And my pushback was always like, you're being introduced as my girlfriend to my closest friends. You're meeting my parent. Like, you know, like I'm not being like, this is some girl that I know. Just kind of, like, it's like, hi, this is my girlfriend. This is one of my closest friends of all time. Like one of my favorite people. Like you're meeting them and connecting and seeing that. Like that shouldn't matter, you know. And I'm not going. And I think how you present yourself publicly also is a thing too. Is like, it wasn't like I was posting like thirst trappy stuff or doing things being like slide in these DMs or do, you know, like being in a way that's the case. But it's just always something that I like laugh about.
Dude, I've gotten a little thirsty in the last like few weeks. I don't know what it is. I posted this reel with my friend Christian while we were in Vegas doing the TikTok job. And it's like, she's posted like 3 or 4 reels featuring me on her page. And I'm getting so many DMs, dude. Like so many random DMs from women in like fucking like Nigeria. And they're just like shooting my shot. And I'm like, I'm flattered. Yeah. Like God bless, you know, hugs. But it's just like, it's an ego boost for sure. And then I like posted my first like TikTok dance video the other day, or I think it was yesterday. And I was like, what am I doing? Yeah, it's fun. I mean, you know that. You know that
if
world.
you're just like, hey, it's silly, whatever. It feels good. Like you just post it and you move on with your day. Sometimes you're like, this is dumb. And like sometimes when you say it's dumb, it gets like, it blows up. And other times you're like, okay, that was dumb.
It was just
and other
fun,
people
like genuinely just fun. Like I just had fun doing it, and it wasn't me being thirsty.
That's how it was. That's
just
the
fun.
thing that I respect so much about like Gen Z of just what they're posting is just like the carelessness, or, you know. And I think like millennials are just like the amount of like early on social media stuff and making fun of each other, like the cringiness. Like Gen Z, the younger generations are just like, if this goes viral and gets me followers that then allows me to keep doing this, that's all that matters. And so like,
whereas like we cared about what like the third friend in our non-friend group said. Like we cared so much.
Exactly. Like everything is like, the people talking and all that kind of stuff. So I want to circle back to the Dave conversation, because one of the things that takes place in the first episode, he has this pickup line that is kind of, it's really brilliant. And I guess he used it in his everyday life. And so that's where it comes in, and maybe that's where it's so good. And I was scrolling through TikTok and an interview with him. I guess he was on the Call Her Daddy podcast recently, and he talks about it and even says it. So I'm going to play you the line right now.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay,
let's see.
First off, my go-to pickup line every time was, excuse me, what's your availability as far as being hit on right now? Like, are you open-minded to that type of thing, or not even remotely?
It's good.
So good. What a line.
So good. What a line. Like, because I had a friend who said his pickup line was like, hey, do you have a boyfriend? So like it shows your intention a little bit and asks, and it's just like, hey, you know, like this is my intention in this conversation. And
what is your availability to getting hit on right now?
Yes.
That is a great line, Dave.
It's so good, because it's like, hey, if you're not, even if you're single and you're just like not in the headspace, it's like, I appreciate that right now. Like not, you know, or like, sure, let's do this, or how does this flow, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's in the show, and to hear him say that, of just like, what is your like, are you open-minded to it? Like, are you, it's like such a respectful approach.
God, I might steal that. That is so good. That is like
so
amazing.
use that at Stagecoach, or for the listeners, as you're out and about and you don't know what to say to a guy or a girl that you find attractive.
Well, I have to be honest. Like a line like that, I've been saying like hi, or just hey, how are you? Hey, name, how are you? And I'm like, because I'm on Raya. I deleted all the other ones, and I feel like Raya is very much like I don't want to be too cool. And I anytime I've like put a fucking sentence together or I comment on a photo, it's like I don't get a response. And I'm just like, maybe I'm just not hot enough in my Raya photos. But like, I don't know. But yeah, that is a good one. What is your availability to getting hit on right now? I love that so much. We do have some questions, by the way, that came into the
cool.
VR.
Yeah, that's what I was looking. Yeah, I was looking through that. So yeah, if you got it, hit me.
I had one guy DM me. It was like our first guy that reached out. Hold on, I have to pull him up.
While you're looking for that,
please.
I meant to mention this earlier in the episode as well. Is snaps to you. You are 2 for 2 on winning the rom-com drafts.
God, that feels good.
And so, despite all the polls that were out, Rob did eke out a dub. So much so that my girlfriend also voted for Rob, which we had to have a conversation about.
Thank you, Michaela. Thank you.
But
babe, you gotta support me in this.
Like, I'm just like, I was going in a way that was just unique to me and honor my personality.
Alex said it the best. He said, you're either going to win by a landslide because it's just going to connect, or you are going to get absolutely slaughtered.
Right. Yeah, because you said, you actually like made a comment earlier that I was going to reference to speed, and then I was like, oh, I should bring that up too, and then we just got carried away with something else of just like, it was like, what do you do, hot shot? What do you do with this situation? And so, but yes,
I really liked your team until Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think.
See, she actually liked that the most out of all of my picks.
Okay.
I think where I got lost and snaps to you on this is like, I was kind of stuck with the Rachel McAdams of like having Midnight in Paris and not like, that I truly, when I saw that, I didn't love the movie when I first saw it to begin with either. But I do think that, implementing a little more rules of like, you've had to see, like, I think that's where I got caught up too. Cause the first draft, I had the number 1 pick as well, and I should have gone Pretty Woman, but I got I was like, I'm gonna do Ocean's 11 and be quirky and like, because I hadn't seen,
which I respect, and I think it's gonna land one of these times. Like
100%. I'm cool. Like, I'm having fun with it, and I'm being me, and I think that's what's most important. As much as I do want to win, I also was putting value of having seen the movies before. So with the Meg Ryan one, like, I hadn't yet watched Sleepless in Seattle or You Got Mail, so I couldn't speak to that. But also, I do think like When Harry Met Sally is like a foundational rom-com that started that boom into the early 90s and late 90s and all that kind of stuff. But snaps to you. Let's get to this question.
I appreciate that. I am glad I'm 2 for 2. I plan on doing a 3-peat. I'm not going to lie. I am MJ in 93 right now, and it
goes on eBay, buys a 3-peat shirt for the for the episode.
For the episode. Okay, so this question comes in from Jack. Hey, Rob, I wanted to ask the still single guys a question. First of all, find the story of yourself and Noelle and Leia so touching that it brought me to tears. Okay, skipping that. Thank you, Jack. This might be a long one, so feel free to paraphrase as much as you like. Okay, I've been on 2 dates on subsequent Saturdays with different chicks, and they both kind of had the same outcomes. First of all, I'm like glad to hear that we got a question from a guy. I feel like most of our audience is female, and so Jack, thank you for reaching out. He said they were both meal dates that the girl had a pre-existing familial engagement afterwards. Both dates went quite well, I thought. Lots of laughing and talking, no awkward moments, and both of them ran past the time the girl said they had to leave by. Okay, good sign. The first girl, we semi-planned the next date for the following weekend as we walk most of the way for her to meet her parents. Second date, we part ways after paying. Both girls seemed to express interest in seeing each other again. The first in agreeing while we walked, and afterwards in messages, and the second girl also in messages with, quote, "I'd love to see you again if you also felt that way." Okay, Jack, so you're feeling good. And now he said, yet both girls said fairly quickly that they'd been on another date and decided to pursue something with the other person more seriously and to stop seeing anyone else. Okay, so now he gets into the question. He goes, to paint the picture of me, I'm a 25-year-old guy. I'm an engineer. I'm 6'2". I feel like I present pretty well. I can be awkward at times, and I have niche interests like anyone else. He says, clear that the date went well, and yet they seemingly really good connections fizzle out when they've met someone who's just a little bit better or something. So I guess I'm just, this is long-winded. I guess I'm wondering if you guys could talk at all about any times you've had good connections that fizzle out from the other person. If this is just a consequence of online dating, and how could I be 2% better?
Great. Well, first of all, like I don't even have enough fingers and toes to tell you how many great connections and dates that I've had that have fizzled after 2 or 3 hangs, if not like the first hang. That's dating, and it's a zero-sum game. So like if there's someone else that there's an interest to, or so, like it's not that someone is better than you. It just wasn't a right fit for you. So I don't want anyone, especially you, Jack, to like compare yourself or put yourself down because you thought the date went well, and it just happens. That's dating, and you can have a good connection with someone in a coffee shop of just like, oh, you're waiting in line and that was so good. And like, there's a little flirtation vibe, and it's just like, okay, that's all that existed for whatever that was supposed to be. And who knows what can go from there. And so, my one thing to be 2% better, I was a little confused. The girls had familiar what?
Familial events to go to, I think.
Oh,
so they were basically saying we only had a certain amount of time, and then they had to leave after the meal date.
Gotcha.
Because they had familial engagements afterwards.
Is that a word?
Familial? I think he just means they had pre-existing family engagement afterwards.
I get that.
Familial is like familial is an interesting word.
I'm not going to nerd out on Googling all that kind of stuff right now. That's what I usually would do. But I guess the one thing that I'm going to say is no sit-down meal dates for the first 3 dates at minimum. Like go do an activity, go walk around, just like have a little bit more of a connection and not so formal of a setting. Especially because then it's like, who's going to, like, did this go well enough that I'm going to take the whole thing? And then their option is to split it. And then you're like, oh, so they don't feel like there's all these different elements that come with it. And
there's one other thing that I didn't include.
Okay, go for it.
So he said, one last note I had. I work and stay out of town at the moment during the week. Less than 2 hours away, but it makes it annoying to do anything midweek with these girls. I personally don't think it would influence their decisions, but worth mentioning. See, this is a good point, Jack, because the midweek date is important when you first start dating. The midweek date is like, it's not that committal. You're not putting your whole weekend on this date, and it's an opportunity to get to know each other better. So if you're talking to these women and you're only available Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday and Saturday, it's understandable for them to be like, I have something else to do. Like, you're a new person in my life, or you're kind of a stranger, So the mid-date,
and it's not even like it's like, hey, you're taking away from social, like people that have built a foundation of a like friendship and connect, like someone that is like, hey, there's this concert, there's this like
birthday party, there's a girls' dinner, like there's just it's not necessarily she's dating another dude on that Saturday. It's like, I mean, granted, they did say like, hey, I've met somebody else or whatever, but yeah, man, I just don't want you to take it too personally because, again, as Jordan said, it is just dating. Like, this is what happens. The fizzle happens. And I'm somebody who's been so humbled by my therapist over the last year where he's like, not every girl is enamored with you, Rob. Like, they can date you and then you break up and then they're okay. Like, they're going to be just fine. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, they love me forever. And he's like, no, he's like, they don't. So there's just a I don't think you need to take it too personally at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I think especially this early on with the like it only being one date, like and if you're meeting via a dating app, I think that's a little bit of the mindset for everyone too. Is just like this person's probably talking to 5 to 10 other people, like
Yes,
like the dates,
minimum.
like yeah, the amount of times, and we've talked about this on episodes in the past too, is just like leaving a date, getting in your car, and immediately opening the dating app to see what conversations you've missed, or like swiping on your way home because you're just like, you're not even giving that person the time to like process like, wow, that was so great and fun, and how do I really feel about this person? Like,
So guilty of that.
it's
disgusting.
terrible. Like,
it's terrible.
I'm guilty of it. Like, we're all guilty of that, and we've talked about that before. And so, yeah, I do think also like it can be a bit of a put off, like you're saying, of just like weekend dates, but like being like, hey, you live 2 hours away right now. Like, how does this work moving forward?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of logistic elements that are just really early on that the easier that people just, like I said, people need ease and convenience. Like, are you available to do something super fun, whatever, like midweek or whatever that isn't like, how can you be as fluid early on, but be intentional at the same time? And,
yeah, I mean, I
that's
can
tough.
even think of my own, like, I had an ex once complain being like, I could only see you on Tuesdays and Saturdays because I have a fucking child. And like looking back, it's like, okay, well then you're not for me. But, I have like Friday night dinner with my daughter. So I try and establish early on when dating somebody, I'm like, yeah, Friday night, like I'm not going to see you Friday nights. Like that is my family night. I'm going to be home. And, that's really important to me. And, for the right woman, they're just like, great. Like they're turned on by that fact. They're not turned off by it. So I think for you, Jack, like it sounds like you got this midweek, you're kind of an out of towner, even though you're 2 hours away, you're basically not in the city that you live in. And, if I was a girl on the opposite end of you, I'd meet you and just be like, wow, he's really nice. He's great. He's tall. He's got a good job, but he doesn't live here. Like that's kind of what would go through my mind versus like, what is actually going on. So again, dude, but it's just part of dating, and you're 25. You're such a fucking baby. And you probably think you're like so old because you're like going through your quarter life crisis, but like, you're just a baby, dude. So just keep dating and, don't take it too personally.
Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy your 20s. There's so much growth and opportunity, and focusing on yourself a bit. I know dating is important, and being able to make those connections. And it makes me think of my buddy in our mid 20s, and we're in the thick of dating apps and all that, and he would be so butthurt about like a girl after the first date like ghosting him, or even like leading up to the first date like ghosting. And this happened like a handful of times where I'm just like chatting with him 30-45 minutes of just being like, you're good, man, don't like, and he ended the conversation every time. He's like, yeah, but I have two to three dates like lined up this weekend. And I'm like, why you're not even committing to this and you're
it's like an ego thing. It's such an ego thing. We're all like wounded little children where it's like, she didn't like me. She like, what is wrong with me? And it's like, nothing is fucking wrong with you. Like, as long as you're a mensch on these dates and you're a gentleman, like there's nothing wrong with you. It's just not a fit, or it's not the timing, or maybe she's looking for something more casual, or maybe she's not looking for casual. And dating is so, it's such a trip, dude. Dating is such a trip.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And so I think going off of what your therapist said is just like a reminder, is just like, not everyone likes you, and you don't like everyone in return. And if you can approach it that way, even if you had a really good time and all that kind of stuff, is like, you're kind of both on your best behavior. Like,
first date, second date, third date, it's like you are like, ooh, Yeah.
you're on your best behavior. So you're thinking, and especially if like alcohol's involved, it's just like, oh, the flirt goes that much higher over the top, or that little, like, that smile, that kiss after like
and then, you
2 to
kiss or
4
you hook
beers,
up.
and you're just like,
God, yeah.
ooh, like, your head's swooning a bit, and it's just like, okay, but how did I really feel about, or like, did you go into the date being like, this person isn't as cute, or like,
I will say though, sobriety has helped me pick up on these little nuggets, and these little nuggets I can't ignore. And sometimes they come off shallow on the show, like she didn't know how to use chopsticks. But the reality,
listen, hold on, that is a legitimate thing. That is like a fundamental function, a little bit of lack of like cultural stuff, as well as just like.
But I really got
child's
the ick. I got the ick earlier than that, and it was a human interaction where a stranger bumped into us at a concert, and she like was like, yeah, like how do you? And I'm like, we're at a concert, like this is what happens, and that was the moment where I was like, there's no turning back, and. I'm just saying, like with my sober ears, I have these nuggets where I hear something and I'm like, that was weird, and I don't know if that's me saying that's an imperfection. It's something that I genuinely don't like. And that, that just happens, and that happens in dating. But again, I think the best thing you can do is just not take any of it personally, because it just means that you're not for that person and she is not for you.
Yeah, just having that reminder, each time of just like, okay, this sucks. This is a hit to my ego, but it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. And just being patient and focusing on yourself. And listen, to be 6'2" and probably having a good paying job and being 25 is like, also from a guy's perspective, not the Venn diagram, but just like the arcs of like, being right out of college, even up to 25, like getting dates as a guy is so challenging. Having girls even like pay attention to you is in your age range is so challenging. And then when you try to like flirt on older girls, they're like, thanks, little kid. But
cute.
Literally like late 20s, early 30s. And once you have like a foundation and you're maybe even living alone, or you're just like making good money, just be a little patient. This is for the guys listening. Like, just be a little patient. Like it gets better. It's so hard though. Like post college, no one looks at you. No one even, you could be, it's the struggle.
It's the struggle.
You're on a.
I mean, some of these women, these
salary.
24, 25-year-olds are going out with 40-year-olds. Like they're going out with like established men who can literally be like, yeah, you want to go to Barcelona this weekend and I'll pay for everything? Or like, let's go to Mexico. Like it's like the freshman to the senior kind of thing in high school. It's like, there's certain things that you just cannot control, and it just is going to take time. But like, yeah, dude, the 2% better, like get your ass in the gym, like bulk up a little bit, eat better. I don't know, like get your teeth
read
whitened.
more, do stuff. Like, even removing like the aesthetic part of it is just like read a book, watch some movies, watch some TV shows, like culture yourself, do, even if it is yoga and things like that, like learn about your astrology sign, get in on those astro babes, like
dude.
Like
take a solo trip, try and go international, like get some memories and some experience on your belt,
or invest in your friendships and all that kind of stuff. And, do those kind of things where it's like still do things for you, and that will bring the right people in your orbit. So
I will say that applies to anybody, whether they're 25 or 35 or 45. Like I'm 35, and the more I do for myself, the more attractive I feel. And
it goes to the TikTok that you made. You were having fun and being silly, like. And if it was for you, and if you show your daughter that and she laughed, like, or whatever, at the end of it was for you. Like you were having fun in the moment, and clicking publish or clicking post was like what you
I was
needed
so nervous,
and wanted
dude,
in that moment.
Especially like posting it, because I posted the TikTok to my Instagram story. I was like, this is so cheesy, but I got a lot of like great comments and
good.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, cool. Should we do just some final thoughts of before we head into this weekend?
Sure.
I'm trying to think what I got. Do you have anything that's coming to mind?
My life is still unclear. I thought I was moving to a different state, and then that didn't happen. And so now my lease is ending, and I'm just, I'm in a long distance relationship. So it's trying to remove the physical distance that is taking place. And despite everything, I'm not as manic as I've probably been in the past or would have been in the past. And it's just kind of like, let's just make a decision. Let's set a time of when we're going to make the I know we have to soon. Let's just what is the best move for us? It's only temporary, or however we can kind of approach that. And I think just a calmness and a patience. And even though my word of the year last year was chaos, I do like the element of newness and change and all
For
that.
sure.
It's just it's how you weather the storm a little bit. And I think just journaling and having the podcast and chatting with you guys and relying on the foundational relationships in my life a little bit to know and just looking inward on being confident and feeling good about the work that I'm doing and knowing that there will be better days ahead. Not saying that this is that terrible of a situation. I'm literally just in a decision paralysis on what's the best move. So that's just kind of where I'm at. But life's good.
I think life is good. I mean, you seem really good, and I think the answer will just kind of what I've learned to trust is that the answer will just show itself, whether you force it or not. I think where I'm at is literally before we hit record on this, I recorded another podcast with Miranda, who it's called the Working Actor Podcast. And it was literally a podcast for actors. And I was like, what is happening? I got invited on an actor podcast. So I'm just taking a moment to be okay, a year ago about this time, I was writing Ghosted, the short film. And then we went into production and made a short film. And now I'm acting again. I have an agent. And it's just okay, dude, let's keep going. And usually about a year into a commitment, career-wise, I go, I'm too comfortable, or this isn't exciting enough. Peace out. I'm done. Yeah. And I'm let's go find the new adventure, And in this season of right, and I think it's normal, and that a lot of people.
I've talked with my therapist so much about because of my ADHD and all this kind of looking at had I just stuck at this one company, they or this, or it's listen, I needed to do these last 6 years of independent travel and content creation and all that kind of stuff, and okay, let's shift this patience element. You'd be I am so ADHD brain of this isn't fun or challenging or exciting anymore. Okay, what's the next thing?
Goodbye.
Just build on it. Just lean into what you're doing a little bit.
Exactly. And I feel for the first time in my life where I don't know if it's financial, emotional, physical. It's just okay, let's just keep building on this. And I don't need to be fucking epically famous or successful by next spring. You know what I mean? A career takes 50 years. It's just keep building on what I'm doing. And I feel confident in that. I'm going to keep building and keep pushing. And I will also say that I had such a busy month of travel last month. And then last week, kind of settling back in LA, I was a little depressed. I was a little oh my God, my life, this is reality. And this week I've kind of come into I love my life in LA. It's great to be here. I have friends. I have my daughter. It's good to be here. So, just feeling that good energy and going to take it into the weekend for sure.
Oh yeah. Snaps to that.
Snaps.
What a great way to end it.
Well, we love you guys. Alex will be back, next episode for sure. And thank you for joining Jordan and I as we popped our cherry. The two man still single.
Absolutely. Good. And remind yourself when watching the next thriller where the guy and girl end up together or whatever. Maybe it's a rom-com. Just remind yourself. Maybe if you look at the comedic and the romance of it all, it's a rom-com.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Well, the 3-peat's coming. I'm gonna go to the thrift store and get a 3-peat shirt.
Do it.
All right, dude. Love you guys.
Later.